Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for March 6th, 2025. Well, I hope everyone ready for another volatile day in the market as we are looking to whipsaw lower here overnight this morning. Let's take a look at what happened other places around the world last night. First off, Asian markets were mostly positive after they heard about the 1 month delay on those tariffs. And so we were up pretty much across the board in Asian markets last night. The only outlier was Australia being down a little over 0.5% last night, while the Nikkei was up. India was up, South Korea was up. We saw a big move in Hong Kong, up 3.29%, and Shanghai was up 1.17%. If we take a look at European markets this morning, European markets not quite so bullish today as yesterday. We do have the DAX up 0.44% or 101 points, while the FTSE is down almost 1%, 0.94%, and the CAC being down 0.48%. And the European markets are really waiting on an ECB rate cut, expected to cut a 25 basis point on that. And of course, they are also glad to see that little 1 month relief on those auto tariffs. So just not feeling quite so bullish here this morning. If we take a look at U.S. futures, well, U.S. futures flip-flopped overnight. We were getting that good push to the upside yesterday, and this morning when I got up, we were down more than 400 points in the futures. They are trying to get the pre-market pump going here this morning, and right now we've got the Dow futures down 360 points. S&P 500 futures down 58.5 points. NASDAQ futures down 251 points here this morning. So just a little bit of a nasty overnight whipsaw coming into place to punish those folks that rushed in yesterday on the buy the dip idea. Let's take a look at what's going on in oil this morning. If we take a look at XLE had quite a ride yesterday, pushing down and coming back up, while oil itself stayed significantly lower. But this morning we have oil also trying to bounce back up here just a little bit. Oil up at this moment at 45 cents at 66.75 a barrel, and Brent is up just slightly as well at 69.69 a barrel. So quite the sell-off here in oil prices. Now, natural gas has been doing really, really well, but natural gas this morning is lower by a little over 4 cents here. So still hanging in there pretty darn bullishly, but pulling back a little bit today. If we take a look at cryptos here this morning, well, crypto's incredibly volatile yesterday, but they are doing a little bit better this morning. We've got Bitcoin this morning up $1,183 a coin. We've got Ether this morning up $69 a coin, 3.17% on Ether, and mostly green across the board. One of the reasons I think that might be the case is we're continuing to see the dollar be weak here this morning. Our dollar moving lower once again here today. Right now the dollar down a little over 10 cents after a really strong sell-off yesterday, with the euro surging up strongly after some budgeting changes and willingness to put on additional debt for defense. Saw a big surge in the euro yesterday, and that is affecting the US dollar. So kind of keep an eye on that. Now, if it were up to the bonds would be making the dollar move just a little bit higher. We've got the 2-year bonds just a slightly higher here at 3.99%. The 10-year bonds are at 4.30, and the 30-year bonds are at 4.59 here this morning. So rising just a little bit on some concern, I guess, overall. So keep an eye on those. Now, precious metals this morning. Precious metals are having a little bit of a trouble today. Let's take a look at gold. Gold pulling back this morning. Right now, down $13.70 an ounce in the futures market, $2,912 an ounce. And silver, after having a really strong day yesterday, silver also taking a break here this morning, down 11 cents at 33.01 an ounce. So kind of keep an eye on those precious metals. Now, copper also pulling back here today after a good move to the upside, and I think COPX might be something you want to be putting on a watch list. If we can push this up and hold in here, there may be something coming in copper, and copper's been down here for quite a while, so watch that carefully. Platinum is lower here this morning, and palladium trying to push up here on the PAL ETF, but palladium this morning being down $1.10 in the futures market. So watch that carefully. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Thursday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these charts, see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, our job as traders is to shake off that emotion and shake off that bias in the market. Look at the charts for what they are, and not for what they want. What you would like them to be. What they are is incredibly volatile with some big point moves and big whipsaw swings here in the market, and making it very, very challenging for most traders out there. It really is kind of a fast day trader market right now, but a very challenging day trader market because of the quick moves and the whips that we are seeing. So this morning we're getting another pushback down here with that, with those bears having their way here with the overnight market pushing us back lower. So here we are, kind of middle of our candle right now in the diamonds. If the bears were to have anything more to say on that, well, let's look for that possibility that we could retest these lows. If those bears have any reason in the economic data to push down, retest those lows, and then perhaps even move on lower. I tell you, if we start breaking down below some of these levels here in the chart, it's going to get pretty ugly. If we take a look at the bullish side of this, if the bulls can find inspiration, well, we know where we're going to go. Right back up here to retest these recent highs here in the chart to see if we can break back through up there. And if we can, then we might start looking at the underneath side of that consolidation here to see if we can stretch up and test that area in the chart. So kind of keep an eye on the diamonds here. Remember, when we look at our moving averages, we are well below our 50-day moving average, and our 34 exponential coming close to that 50, and we'll soon be crossing down, adding some additional layers of resistance here in the chart. So just be very, very careful here in the market, and you do want to recognize the fact that we're not that far from the 200-day moving average, and a test of some of these lows right down in here could bring us right down to that 200-day moving average. If we take a look at our SPY, also pulling back pretty hard here today, kind of inside yesterday's candle. So once again, if those bears have anything to say here, well, let's see if we can test some of these lows of that candle in here, test that area as a little support. If that were to break, then I think we're down here testing these tails here in the SPY. Watch that carefully. And if the bulls can find inspiration today, well, the upside move up here would be up into this area of congestion and perhaps even higher to push on through to test those lows of this 3-candle ugly bearish pattern here in the SPY. So watch that carefully if those bulls can get going. Again, looking at those moving averages in here, we have come so close to testing the 200-day moving average. It really wouldn't be hard to see that possibility of a pushback to get a full-on test of that 200-day. So watch carefully for that if those bears get going. And if those bulls want to see a pretty ugly situation ahead, well, that's at 34 EMA crossing down through that 50-day. Obviously, we're very oversold in the short term, but we're really starting to build some negative momentum here in the market as those moving averages start rolling over. If we take a look at our QQQ, well, QQQ, as we know, has been having a pretty rough time. Yesterday we had all of a sudden the big tech giants decided to get bought up, and that really helped a lot in picking the market back up yesterday. So this gap down this morning is probably pretty disappointing to anyone who bought up some of those techs. They're going to be looking at or staring at some losses here this morning. If those bears continue to find inspiration here, I'm going to look for a retest of this area of support right here. Now, of course, if that were to give up, if that were to fail, then I think we're going to start progressing back down to see whether or not the tails of these last couple of days are going to hold us as support. So watch that carefully here in the market. Once again, if those bulls find inspiration, well, you can see that resistance right in here. We might push right up there and see if we can test that area of the chart, see if we can pop on through. And if we can, then we're starting to look at probably some areas here, maybe middle of those two, that range in here, these two wicks that we put in the last couple of days on those candles, and then we might push on up here into that next area of resistance in the chart. Here again on those moving averages, good solid test of the 200-day. So far we're able to stay off of that area, but once again, if those bears really have something to say, we could see a retest of that fairly easily in the chart. And notice here that we've also got our short-term moving averages moving down through the 50-day, creating some resistance levels up there for those bulls to have to deal with if we push on back higher. And then our IWM, that old Russell, pushed up yesterday, had a nice little push, pushed right up into this resistance here in the chart. And that resistance that I've got here, it goes way back over here. You can see we've got all of this price action right in here and all the way back to 2021 and 2022. So that bounce yesterday, we pushed right up into there, just were not able to get through that area. So if the bulls can find some good inspiration, then we need to be able to push through that area of resistance, and this big dark candle start pushing up into this area, testing some of these resistance levels up in here and maybe coming up closer into that downtrend. If the bears, however, have anything to say here, certainly doesn't look like it would be all that rough to be retesting yesterday's low, and that possibility of even going lower here in the chart would not be all that hard to see on the Russell. Now, if we take a look at our moving averages, here we have pretty ugly situation where we're well below the 200-day moving average, and we're really not that far away from the 500-day. Notice that our 50 is declining very quickly. We're going to very soon have the 34 EMA even crossing down through the 200-day moving average, creating this zone of resistance for those bulls to have to get through when we come back up, if we can come back up. So watch that area in the Russell. Now, taking a look at our VIX did have a nice little rest yesterday, pulling back, easing some of that pressure. We lost this area of price support here for those bears on the VIX, but not so much as to see it as something that's impossible for us to push back through. So if those bears have anything continued to say this morning and we continue to see fear perking up in the market, I'm going to look for that possibility that we pop back up here through that 23 handle in the chart, and then of course we could start looking at any of these wicks out here, even progressing all the way up here if we were to get very fearful overall. If the if the bulls have anything to say, well, pushing this on down, and I see a level of support right across through here that I would be watching. You see, we tested that yesterday and bounced off of it, but watch that area right there. If we were to test and hold, we're in good shape. If we test and break through to the downside, that's going to put those bulls back into control, and maybe we come back in here testing this upside trend in the VIX. Now, our volatility is high, and we know when we look at these markets that big point moves are possible in very small periods of time. So make sure you're acknowledging this, and make sure if you're an option trader, you're paying close attention to those wide bid-ask spreads and those higher premiums that you're having to pay. When you pay those higher premiums, just remember, every time you lock in a trade, that means the theta decay is already set and it's coming at you with those higher premiums. So plan carefully on your risk if you're an option trader. If we take a look at our T20s, our T2122, let's take a peek here. T2122 got a nice little relief rally yesterday, a nice little lift off the bottom, and we definitely needed that, and I was kind of rooting for that to occur. This gap down this morning will likely have us pulling back in this area. Just kind of keep in mind, if the bears were to really get going on anything here today, that rally yesterday provides that pullback opportunity to occur in T2122. So watch carefully. There's plenty of evidence over time where we can bounce in here, and yet we linger in this lower area of the market. So watch that carefully. If the bulls, however, find any kind of inspiration to push higher, then we certainly have plenty of opportunity to push on higher, and even pushing back up to test this downtrend really wouldn't be out of the question for those bulls to get a good relief rally underway here in the market. Now, our T2108 had a little bit of a bounce back up yesterday, so pushing off of this price support, I'm going to give that up. That's a good one for the bulls to hold that price support. Unfortunately, it really didn't progress all that far yesterday. Only 28.5% of the stocks holding above their 40-day moving average. Not exactly a big warm and fuzzy for the markets, but if they can continue to find that inspiration to push on higher, just keep in mind we've got some pretty good areas of resistance up here to be watching as we push back up. If the bears, however, find anything to fight for here in the market, testing this area of support would be one thing, but then breaking that down, we could start moving back down into this area of the market on T2108. Now, our T2107, very much the same, had a nice little move to the upside yesterday, and a little hook in there trying to push us up, bouncing off of here around 35. Now remember, we can go lower here in our T2107, and we have been down there recently, but this is a good area of price support in here to maybe bounce off of. So the percentage of stocks above the 200-day, at the end of the day, we were about 37%, just short of 37% of the stocks holding above their 200-day. You'll want to notice if we can continue to push, we've got some resistance levels up here to be paying attention to as we push back to the upside. Let's take a look at our T2101. T2101 maybe just a little bit of concern because on that relief rally yesterday, we wanted to see good, strong breadth pushing through on that bullish wave, showing us that the buyers were really with conviction stepping up and showing us that momentum of the move. Unfortunately, by the end of the day, we're kind of showing that weakness, a little bit of hook over here in the market. So that may be one of the reasons why the bears are having so much success here this morning in the pre-market. Watch carefully here if we happen to see on a bearish wave, seeing that breadth continue to move up while we weaken on the buy wave. Not the best look for the market, so watch that carefully here as we push back and forth in these big whipsaws in the market. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, well, today is going to be a little bit more of a busy morning. We've got the Challenger job cut report this morning to be paying attention to. Keep an eye on that. International trading goods will be up next, and we've got a whopper of a consensus in here. Negative 123 billion on that international trade. Watch that closely. Certainly a negative for the market, but oftentimes it's just something we ignore. If we take a look at our jobless claims, well, our jobless claims in here looking for an increase, 244,000. If we take any kind of lead from some of the jobs numbers we've seen so far this year, or from this week, I mean, not this year, we could see this go up a little bit. So watch that carefully here, particularly on the East Coast with what's happening in Washington, D.C. Now, if we take a look at productivity and costs this morning, they're looking at those. Consensus is suggesting staying flat. Watch carefully on those. That could certainly be a market mover if there's a surprise on either side of that. We've got Hawker speaking. We've got wholesale inventories to be paying attention to here today, a natural gas report. It's a bunch of bond announcements, a couple of bond auctions here, a 4-week and 8-week, and Waller Fed balance sheet, and Bostic will be speaking later on this evening. And then if we take a look into Friday, as you look forward, remember Friday, we've got that big employment situation number to be paying attention to, and a whopping amount of Fed talk that includes Jerome Powell. So be prepared for some volatility that volatility continue on Friday. We got the Baker Hughes rig count and a consumer credit report as well. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here for today. In our earnings calendar, well, it's got some more notables here this morning that we would want to be paying attention to. So take a screenshot of this. I'm still not doing the blog. I will be back doing the blog probably next week. But watch that carefully here as we move through. And we've got some more market movers here today that have better potential of moving us around. Now, this morning, it is going to be maybe rather limited. I see Macy's reporting here. They're just bouncing around here this morning. Carmart, not much activity here on that yet. We've got BJ's Wholesale, a little pop and drop going on in there today. MRX will be this morning. TTC will be here this morning. So few of those moving around here today. Now this afternoon we have our most notables. We're going to be hearing from AVGO, Broadcom here this morning, or this afternoon. Could be very, very important. And Costco, also a market moving report. And then a few other retail in here like the Gap stores that we'll be reporting this afternoon. So keep an eye on those with SWBI in there, Smith & Wesson, later this afternoon as well. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, you know what to do. Click that subscribe button on YouTube. Also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, and that would be click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. Thanks to everyone who shares these videos out on your social media feed. And just a big shout out to everyone who continues to support the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link just below the title of the video. You guys are awesome. Truly, truly appreciate that. Let's take a look at some of these charts setting up. Remember, everyone, they're not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence, be very, very careful in this market, and make sure you're planning your risk carefully with the volatility that we're seeing going in. It's okay. It is okay to have the market open and you choose to sit on your hands and avoid the risk while the market is acting like this. Just remember, cash is a position, and sometimes when the market's like this, it can be one of the better positions that you can have, just simply protecting your capital. So think about that carefully. Let's take a look at a few of these stocks. First off, let's take a look at Uber. By golly, that Uber is setting up pretty nicely here. Nice little pop and a nice little resting pattern. That resting pattern coming back towards support and trend. Keep an eye on this. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see that price action, that volatility in here tighten up a little bit more as we move out here toward this trend. But it's one to be watching, and you can see I placed a price alert on it in case it goes early. So watch that carefully here on Uber. One of the other places in the market is in that healthcare area that's been doing quite well and showing some signs of turning around. I mentioned Biogen yesterday, BIIB, trying to get something going here out of this bottom. Notice we're just struggling with that 50-day moving average here in the chart. But healthcare, when the market gets nervous, it's one of those things that we all need in healthcare, and we're starting to see some of these come back up. So keep an eye on Biogen, and this is following right in that same path. CRL, beautiful little inverted head and shoulders pattern setting up in here. Clearly we still have a downtrend that we need to break here in that chart, and we've still got that 50-day moving average as well to be paying attention to. So watch that carefully. It's not quite ready for prime time yet, but something to pay attention to. I got to tell you, I think Baxter is probably one of the better ones of these three that I've shown you in that healthcare area. Keep an eye on Baxter. A nice little push up here, holding above this support area in the chart, up above its 200-day moving average, trying to hold it as support. And I see the possibility this could continue to extend on out to the upside, despite the fact that it might be just a little steep. If this is the buy point, maybe just a little steep in that trend, meaning what I mean by that is it could rest a little bit more. So you may have some time to wait on that. So be careful there. Take a look at some of the other things out there in the market. Boy, take a look at Mondelez. We are continuing to see defensive sector stocks holding up pretty well. They had some recent pullbacks in some of them, but Mondelez still looking very good, moving to the upside. You guys know that I've been talking about this and talking about this rotation as they were trying to sneak into this before the market sold off, and watch that carefully. Mondelez looks like it may have a little bit more upside after that good push yesterday in MDLZ. If we take a look at Constellation Brands, now Constellation Brands has been struggling a lot more in here, but you can see we've got this this nice little pattern that could be setting up in this chart. And what I'm looking for, this is that inverted head and shoulders pattern that I'm talking about. If that can hold this little higher low here, then this may have that opportunity to push on through to the upside. Of course, we still have that 50-day moving average up there to look at, but you know, when it comes to those beverages, wineries, and things like that, I just don't think folks are giving those up completely, and particularly when the market's bad, I would think maybe they're picking up that bottle just a little bit more and trying to be funny here, but you can see that push up there toward the 50-day moving average certainly could be in play. And things like Altria is something that I am holding, and I've got a short strike against that for this pullback going on. But Altria coming back into this support area of the chart and trend, watch that carefully. If we can hold in here someplace, then I would be looking for that next opportunity to the upside. Take a look at stocks like Kroger. Now, Kroger, the grocery store, is just falling all apart here and looking ugly in the chart. And what I'm going to say on this might be a little bit surprising with my theme of defensive sector stocks, but I think a rally back up now here on Kroger could set up the next shorting opportunity. So pulling back, rally back up, look for that next opportunity for a short there in the chart. Take a look at stocks like Tyson. Tyson had a pretty ugly day just the day before, and yesterday reversing pretty strongly, and here we're getting that gap down. So perhaps we're going to consolidate this move in here right along this area, and of course the volatility is going to make that challenging, but maybe if we consolidate that move in here, we might be able to find this upside trend and find that opportunity to push on through to the upside. And I've got to continue to bring up things like GDX having a great day yesterday, pushing up those miners. VALE pushing back up yesterday. You can look at some of the individuals out there. AG coming up off the bottom. Barrick Gold making some moves here in the market. Keep an eye on some of those out there. FCX is trying to come up off a bottom as well. Little sketchy here at the moment, but trying to make some moves, so keep an eye on even some of those copper plays if copper starts coming back around. So with that, everyone, the video's getting a little bit long. I want to wish you all a fantastic day. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for participating in the video, supporting the video with your kind comments and thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Y'all take care, be safe. I'll see you right back here bright and early Friday morning.